Last week I went into Walmart and I was just about to leave and I looked up and I saw my friend Madison and we looked up at each other and she was like, ah! Because like a month earlier we'd seen each other at a different Walmart, and the Walmart that we saw each other at last week was one that I don't think either of us regularly go to. It's a little ways away from home. And so we just were like laughing and hugged, and it was so funny that we'd seen each other again. So I went out and got in my car, and I was telling my sister how I thought it was so funny that we saw each other again. And then I got thinking about like the chances of us seeing each other. It's crazy when you think about things like that. So we had both been traveling that day, and we had both been like 2-ish plus hours away from home. And it was the end of the day when we happened to see each other. And I thought back on all of the choices that I had made that got me to Walmart at that specific time. And we changed the time when we were originally going to leave. So that affected it. And I had wanted to go to a certain store, but realized that I had taken a different route to get home than I kind of thought that I was going to. So didn't end up going to that store. Then I was feeling really tired, so I wasn't sure if I wanted to stop at a second store that I had been planning on. But as we approached it, I just was like, I'm just going to go. So I pulled over, ran into the store, looked at a few more things than planned on, but like that's kind of how stores are, right? And then got back in the car, kept driving. We stopped to grab a bite to eat, and the line was kind of long. It was taking a little while. Anyways, going to Walmart and see her. And I just thought, like, it's so amazing how things like that happen, because think of how many people were going in and out of Walmart that day. And if I had been 30 seconds or 1 minute sooner or later than I was, I wouldn't have seen her. Like, that's crazy when you think about it like that. It just blows my mind. And, it just made us both happy. But it's really had me thinking the last few days, the last week, about how amazing God is and how he orchestrates our lives. And I always feel so amazed when I think about how he designs our lives. And I think oftentimes, a lot of the time, it doesn't really feel like that's what's happening, especially if we're waiting for an answer or a solution or a change in our lives. But this just reminded me again that he's always aware of us and he makes things happen. And I thought back to how I wasn't going to go to that second store, but I had some thoughts like, oh, I really should go grab this. And it was kind of like I had this little burst of energy, just go ahead and go. And it changed the timing of my day. And I look back and I attribute that to like a small prompting from the Spirit that would make it possible for us to be there at the same time, to see each other. And again, it was a simple thing, but I believe it was designed that way to teach me a lesson that, in the small and simple things, God's doing that, and in the most important things. And it reminded me of a talk by Elder Razban from October 2017 conference. The talk's called By Divine Design. And I will never forget this talk, but I wanted to read a little piece of it. It says, our lives are like a chessboard, and the Lord moves us from one place to another if we are responsive to spiritual promptings. Looking back, we can see his hand in our lives. Events and associations unfold in each of our lives that further God's work on the earth. And I thought about what God's work is. And we know in the book of Moses that it says, this is my work and my glory, to bring to pass the immortality and eternal life of man. And God's work is to let us know that we're loved. God's work is to help us succeed and to grow and to find joy in him and joy in the journey as we learn and we grow. And that's why he does beautiful things like that for us, like making it so you see your friend at Walmart again. And he also quotes President Monson in his talk, and I love this. There is a guiding hand above all things. often when things happen, it's not by accident. One day when we look back at the seeming coincidences of our lives, we will realize that perhaps they weren't so coincidental after all. And Elder Razband in his talk goes on to talk about the word coincidence, and talks about how it's not an appropriate word to describe the divine design of God. And I love that. And I think that it's important for us to recognize that our lives are divinely guided by Him, and things aren't by accident. And so we should have reverence for that. One of my sisters on her mission, she said that we should reverence our trials. And I love that. And I think we need to reverence the challenges that in our lives. Everyone's facing a challenge of some kind right now. And we need to reverence them and respect them and recognize that God's with us and He is weaving our lives and bringing to pass our eternal life.